I'm the lady at the store who you might bump into, the lady with the gray hair and one eye. Oh, it's so nice out. In 1996, when I was 38, I was diagnosed with ocular melanoma. My tumor was large and it was diffuse. It wasn't a nice small lump that could be removed surgically. Because of the size of the tumor, the amount of radiation that would have been needed for the doctors to be sure that they had gotten it all would have destroyed the eye. So I already said goodbye to the sight in that eye, and they broke the news to me that I would have the eye removed. Look. The actual surgery, I think took a couple of hours, and I think I went home the next day. It was a blow to my vanity when they removed the eye because I couldn't wear contact lenses anymore. I had to wear glasses.
We know that ocular melanoma is a genetic disease. Ocular melanoma and skin melanoma are both melanomas. And that means that they arise from the same sort of precursor cell, which are the melanocytes. But we think that genetics are completely different.
This is the left eye of another patient with a very large tumor. It's not a very common cancer. It's approximately 7 cases per million per year in the United States. It's more common in patients with blue iris and fair skin. We don't know the exact cause of this. Certainly, it's not secondary to exposure to the sun, although there is a little bit of controversy regarding this issue. Certainly, it's not well proven as it is with skin melanomas.
Ocular melanoma, again, is unique in some respects, not only because of its starting point in being in the eye, but also because if it were to try to leave the eye and successfully do so, it has a very unique ability to send cells and have them land or take hold in the liver.
This is probably the most dangerous intersection and the worst one that I can possibly do with one eye, 2 or 3, or one in the middle of your forehead or whatever you've got. I had no real symptoms. I went to see my doctor for something else. I had symptoms, but they weren't confirmed to be of ocular melanoma.
Patients sometimes have symptoms and sometimes do not, depending on the location of the tumor and also on the size of the tumor. If the tumor is located in the center of the eye and affects the vision, then the patient can notice that the vision is not good, and the diagnosis can be made.
We've always known that it is a cancer that behaves a bit differently than others. The treatments for ocular melanoma, focusing on the eye itself, are extremely effective.
You can see a patient that is going to be treated. The patient is sitting on a chair, and she has a mask and also a bite block to immobilize her. During the last almost 35 years now, we use a special form of treatment for the radiation of killing of these malignant cells inside the eye. It's called proton beam irradiation. This is actually the most successful radiotherapy treatment from all the tumors that we treat. We have only 3% of the tumors that continue to grow after radiation. So this is extremely successful.
It's quite possible that ocular melanoma could hide itself from the immune system in ways that are different than cutaneous melanoma or other cancers altogether. And it's understanding some of that process of how is it that a cancer hides itself from the immune system and figuring out ways to unmask it. In other words, to sort of lower the force field and allow the immune system to recognize it. That is a major part of ongoing research.
This is before and this is after the treatment.
Our treatments are far, far better than they've ever been. That includes radiation therapy. It used to be that ocular melanoma led to removal of an eye. That's almost never the case anymore. We can treat ocular melanoma with radiation alone, and often that's enough to cure a patient. But when it does spread, it's a difficult disease to treat. At the present time, there's no standard treatment for ocular melanoma that's spread beyond the eye. And we're trying a lot of different things as part of clinical trials that we think might have some chance of working.
In case somebody is facing what's called enucleation, I want them to know that, you're not going to be strange and little children won't run screaming from you in the street because you look so abnormal. I mean, this is how you're going to look. And I can get the movement up and down, and then this lateral is good. And it doesn't quite work going this way. It's not, you can see that this one isn't moving as much. When I drive, I have to be very careful on looking on the left-hand side. I had to be a little bit more careful as a driver. As a result, I'm a better driver. I have a perfect record. In the summer of 2006, a full 10 years after the enucleation, I had a little contretemps with my primary care physician. She wanted me to get another CAT scan, and I said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. It's been 10 years. They told me 5 to 8 years, and you know, with clear CAT scans." And she said, "Why don't you have another CAT scan, Nancy?" I said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. I don't have to have another CAT scan." "Why don't you have another CAT scan, Nancy?" "Okay, I'll have another CAT scan." So of course, the CAT scan showed nodules. There was one in my lung, one in my liver. There was something on my kidney. The kidney thing turned out to be a cyst. The lung thing was put on hold till the liver thing was explored. I was tortured with more biopsies, and it was confirmed at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the day before my surgery was scheduled, that it was in fact mean evil malignant melanoma.
The cells that get away from the tumor turns a patient from curable to incurable. And that is a critical thing that we don't understand. That process is called metastasis.
If you have a melanoma in the eye and you have a liver, melanoma, that's from the eye.
Liver involvement with ocular melanoma is the thing that we are fighting against the most. But you could also say that it creates an opportunity. And by that I mean there is the opportunity to use so-called liver-directed therapies, so treatments that are really aimed to cover the liver and not other parts of the body, to be effective in this situation. And we've seen that already with some of the available treatments.
If you're going to have surgery on your liver, I wouldn't worry about it too much because the liver regrows and you're still going to have a functioning liver. So they took out about 60% of the liver for about a 1 centimeter tumor. I did feel unsure. I felt a little bit somehow separated from my own self. I always know what to do, and now I didn't know what to do. I come down very, very firmly on the side of following up ocular melanoma patients with CAT scans and sometimes with MRIs. I just want to tell anybody who's facing this that you just have to dig in and get through it. It's the uncertainty. Nobody can tell you anything. Or 3 people tell you 6 different things. And every doctor has 2 opinions. And you are going to say, what, did I just enter an alternate universe? And no, you didn't. Now you're in melanoma land.
Many people go through these, I call them sort of medical events, that they face in their lives. This is something that's happening now, in my body, and I can heal. I can heal from this. There's so much, that mind-body connection. We need to, as best we can, and it's not easy, in those situations, and can be a real challenge on the day-to-day. Reiki is a hands-on healing modality that brings relaxation to the person receiving it. One of the great things about Reiki is that you can learn it yourself. Everybody can learn Reiki. Basically, it's universal life force energy that comes through the practitioner, and the practitioner places hands on the client, and it really works to catalyze healing within the client. We all have these amazing, miraculous healing systems within our body. The body is amazing in its ability to heal. There is a beautiful, beautiful energy out there that's all around us. Again, everybody has access to it. It's a matter of learning how to open up to it and letting it come through and activate, again, your own incredible healing system that's inside. And I think that's one of the things I find with people on the table is that, having that hands-on work brings you to such a sense of calm and such a sense of peace and such a sense of connection to that light that, it's almost like we forget momentarily that we're in these bodies, and we remember that we're more than just these bodies. And then things like illness aren't as scary. People heal themselves. Nobody heals anybody else. People heal themselves, and it usually takes some effort. And it's exciting to be involved in teaching people Reiki, how to do it really on themselves. I think that, eventually we will have centers in hospitals that offer things like acupuncture and Reiki in support of people's healing.
The CTC chip was developed in Mehmet Toner's lab, and the idea was really, can we detect tumor cells in cancer patients with solid cancer? So the common ones are breast, lung, prostate, pancreas, and colon. Can we detect those cells in the blood? The way this technology was developed was it takes the principle of being able to microfabricate these little devices that you can put posts on. That was the original design. And now we have a fancier design that uses sort of a pattern on a chip that allows cells to interact with the surface.
Here's where the magic happens. So you'll see the blood come down into the tubing.
And when you are able to do that at a certain rate, so you can process a lot of blood in a certain period of time without the chip clogging, you can allow the capture of rare cells in that blood. I think the next level of things now are, can we learn about the biology of these cells? And the reason why that is important is, presumably, these are the cells that get away from the tumor. It's a bit of an art to putting this together, and the challenge that our engineers are accomplishing now is, how do we make this easier for the common laboratory sort of technician to do? And so that's the challenge, is making this chip and this device sort of easier to use so it's reproducible each time. I think with the CTCs, I think it gives us an extra dimension that we never had before.
I think that's a very exciting technology that has been led here at Mass General with Dr. Daniel Haber. It is still being developed. It's not something we're offering our patients on a routine basis. But what it can do is it can help us pick up circulating cells that have broken off from the original site of the cancer and have entered the blood circulation.
When you sort of think about that, as we develop all these sort of personalized medicines and targeted therapies, this test could serve as a way to give you information that is important about the tumor at the DNA level that could inform us which drugs would actually work very well.
We are really on the verge of something quite big in terms of the ability to effectively treat and hopefully eliminate even seeds of the cancer that try to spread elsewhere.
This is an extremely unusual disease. There are not enough numbers of people for the studies to be as good as they are and the results to be as reliable as they are for other melanomas, let alone other cancers like breast cancer. So you're going to hear a lot of different things, and you're going to feel that you're out in the woods leaderless. Hold on, because there's a path and you'll find it.
Technology is expanding, but we're still like at the very beginning. We're still like making some strides, but we have not hit the home run. And maybe, just maybe, CTCs would be the home run. We'll take as many singles and bunts that we can, but we got to go for the home run because this disease needs a home run.
So a stock of cells that we've kept at essentially 200 degrees below freezing point. We understand the genetics of this better than ever before, and we can exploit those genetic changes better than any time before. So I'm very optimistic that we will find a treatment for this disease. These are all cells. There's probably, in each one of these tubes, there's probably 1 million cells. And they're all frozen down so that we can use them and grow them like we've seen already. The problem with ocular melanoma is that there hasn't been a concerted effort to do all those experiments because there is not enough money to pay for these experiments.
Our aim is to move therapies quickly into that situation where we're talking about cure. But melanoma, and certainly ocular melanoma, have not been very well represented in terms of the budgeting that goes towards funding research in this area. You could say that that's partly because ocular melanoma is relatively uncommon. And you could also say, again, that historically it's been a poorly understood entity, and therefore there's been a relative lack of focus on it. Even though you might say, but that poor understanding should mean there should be more focus. Over and over again, we see that that's not the case. As soon as one has a foot in the door in terms of some understanding, you see an enthusiastic rush, if you will, of researchers who are now quite interested in the problem.
You can be optimistic when things are moving in the right direction. And I think things are moving in the right direction.
I would say that we have every reason to believe that 5 years from now it's going to be a totally different landscape in terms of outcomes for people with ocular melanoma, specifically our ability to take care of those cells that try to break away, which are the life-threatening element of the disease.
I think cures are going to come from a lot of people working together.
This rose is Ghislaine. Ghislaine de Féligond, that's her name. She's very French. Physically, there's nothing I can't do that I could do before. See the bud? You want to cut above a bud. I work in my garden. I'm in 2 book clubs. I read. I'm married to a social butterfly, a man who thinks life isn't worth living if you don't have 3 lunch dates and 2 dinner dates in one day. If you get some news that your life may be a little shorter than you were actually anticipating or even fearing or hoping for, you've loved, you've given your love to people, and there are people who've loved you, and you have that, and that has made your life worth living. If you get unexpected news, you still have that love, and it's the love that counts.
I would speak what's in my soul.
I was diagnosed 2 years ago, actually next month, in July. I remember being in the doctor's office, Dr. Verdutis at Mass Eye and Ear, and he looked in my eye and just pushed back in his chair and said, "You have malignant melanoma." And I couldn't really comprehend. It was surreal to me. I really couldn't comprehend what he was saying. So I left his office and I had surgery a week later, and then radiation. And that, the surgery was tough. The radiation wasn't so bad, but 2 years later, it's still, my vision is real poor in my left eye. I don't know if it'll always be like that, but I deal with it. And I think my message for this documentary about ocular melanoma is I want it to be one of hope. It's an orphan disease. Only about 2,000 people a year get it.
Please help us find a way. And off the bitterness, put some tenderness in our hearts.
You have to be really diligent about screening and scans, and luckily mine have all come back clear so far. I go every 6 months for 5 years, and then I'm pretty much, like any other type of cancer, pretty much okay, hopefully. And you get freaked out for that day, maybe a day after, waiting for the results, but you just go back to living life normally, after you get the results. Some things become more important than others. Some things that were important to you aren't so important anymore. And I think you value friendships more, family more. One thing I did do was I started doing Reiki. And I have to say that it really kind of saved my soul. It made me more centered and able to deal with this disease. During this whole process, I saw this bracelet in the gift shop at Mass General. It said, "Trust your journey." And those words have become really very meaningful to me, because that's what you have to do, is trust your journey no matter what it is. And try not to live in fear is my biggest message. Live your life the way you want to. Try to live happily. And really just trust your journey.